Hello and welcome to episode 132 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for joining me today on the program. While you're here with me, make sure to head on over to linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, to find out where I am all over the internet. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a pretty jam-packed show. We have to cover the PlayStation State of Play that happened last week. We're also going to talk even more PlayStation news stuff that maybe wasn't shown at State of Play. Video game layoffs, because it wouldn't be an episode of the Glitch Report podcast without covering video game layoffs. Maybe a little bit of Tony Hawk news thrown into the mix. And so much more. I have been playing Final Fantasy Rebirth. I have been playing a game about digging a hole. And I have been playing Avowed. We're going to talk all of those games towards the end of the podcast today. But we got to get to news first. But before we even get to news, let's cover the review roundups for both Avowed and Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Those are some of the big games coming out this week. So let's kind of cover them here. I will just say at the top of the show, before we get too ahead of ourselves, feeling a tad under the weather, a little bit of a sore throat, a little bit of a headache, a little bit of a, I don't know what's going on, equilibrium kind of thrown off base a little bit. I do have a cup of coffee. I imagine, I'm going to tell you right now that I think I'm the type of under the weather that a cup of coffee might actually make worse. This is what I think. I think that I should probably have gone with a cup of tea instead of a cup of coffee. But if coffee is good enough for FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper, it is good enough for me, damn it. So let's kind of jam through this. So if I sound a little goofy, more than I already do, I should say, blame it on feeling a tad under the weather. But forget all that. Let's talk about Avowed. Avowed is out as of yesterday on Xbox Series X and S and PC. It was out 5 days early if you got the premium edition of the game, or you upgraded to the premium edition of the digital edition of the game. I'm not a big fan of the way Xbox does this, but basically, if you don't want to buy the game on Game Pass, but you want to play the game early on Game Pass, you could have bought, I forget how much it was. I can pull this up here. Give me one moment as I look this up, because I don't love this business practice. I got to be honest. I'm not crazy about it. Okay, so this is in Canadian dollars, but basically you could have spent about $28 to get the premium upgrade edition of the game, which means you do not own the game, but you own the edition of the game that allows for 5 days early access to premium skin packs and access to the Avowed digital art book and soundtrack. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have bought this before in the past. Microsoft has done this for a lot of their different games. I did this for Starfield. I did this for Forza Motorsport. I did it for Forza Horizon 5. And I did it for Forza Horizon 4. And at the time, I thought it seemed like not a bad deal. Like, you know, it's not the worst deal in gaming, especially because I know I want all that content and all of that stuff, and I want to play the game early, and I want to whatever. I just didn't want to buy the game. But in the case of like the Forza Horizon 5 premium deluxe digital upgrade, whatever they called it, I think I ended up spending about $70 anyways, because it's like, oh, you're going to get all these cars, you know, additional cars, and you're going to get all this stuff. And like, in fairness, when Microsoft pulled Forza Horizon 4 from their storefronts, they gave me the base game for free to complete with all the DLC that I own, because they're like, oh, well, you bought the DLC and we're taking the game away from Game Pass, so we're going to throw you a bone and give you the base game for free. But I've thought more about it, and I think it really cheapens the Game Pass experience. This idea that like, subscribe to Game Pass PC or Game Pass Ultimate if you're on console, and get Avowed day one, no problem. But if you'd like to give us some extra money, we can give it to you day -5 instead of day 1. However the math works. And I just find that it cheapens the experience. Excuse me as I adjust this microphone here. It cheapens the experience, in my opinion, to have this subscription service and then be essentially nickeled and dimed to death at the cost of I don't know, half a new video game, give or take, to get it 5 days early. It's just not worth it. But let's cover the reviews now that I got the page loaded up here. What I got is let's take a look at the reviews. 126 critical reviews up now for Avowed on opencritic.com. 126 reviews. 82 is the top critic average rating for the game, with 85% of critics recommending Avowed. I will share my opinion on Avowed once we get to that portion of the show. Until then, let's see what other people had to say about Avowed. We got PC Gamer giving Avowed an 82 out of 100, saying, bigger than it first appears, Avowed is an engrossing and gorgeous action RPG set in one of the most engaging fantasy worlds going, though it lacks the complex systems of its most beloved contemporaries. Game Rant, 7 out of 10, saying Avowed's first-person combat and respect for player choice make it a journey worth having, but flaws in its story and design make it a one-way road. Avowed got a 7 out of 10 over at IGN.com, saying Avowed is a perfectly competent RPG that showcases Obsidian's writing and world-building chops, but has little else to distinguish itself among sword and sorcery adventures. Now, Obsidian, if you remember, a long-running RPG developer, they made the Pillars of Eternity games. The Pillars of Eternity world is where Avowed is actually set in. So even if you didn't play, PoE 1 or PoE 2, Deadfire, this is still set in that world. Obsidian also made South Park, The Stick of Truth. They made Fallout New Vegas, which I'm currently playing over at twitch.tv.com/GnittWitt every Friday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So they made Fallout New Vegas. They also made The Outer Worlds, which is kind of a shorter, leaner, tighter sci-fi first-person action RPG, kind of riffing on something like Fallout, but in a much smaller and tighter scope. What else did Obsidian make? Alpha Protocol. Oh, who can forget Alpha Protocol? The third-person stealth-based spy action RPG, which was really neat as well. Am I missing anything really big from Obsidian as of late? They also made Grounded, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids-esque survival, RPG. They made Pentiment. Pentiment came out in 2022. That was the side-scrolling adventure game. They made Tyranny. They made Dungeon Siege 3. We can all forget that Dungeon Siege 3 happened. They're also the developers of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, and Neverwinter Nights 2. So Obsidian, been around, doing it for a while, and have maybe come across a formula, at least as of right now, which is we're going to take, kind of Bethesda-style open-world action RPGs like Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, or Oblivion, and Fallout, and we're going to kind of twist that into a much leaner, tighter experience. And Avowed really leaning into this idea of using a pre-established world that they've already made, like the Pillars of Eternity world, but leaning into that Bethesda-style Skyrim and Oblivion-style gameplay. Eurogamer, 4 out of 5. They said what Avowed lacks in its gloss, it makes up for with charm, depth, and a playful heart. It's one of this year's most pleasant surprises. Games Radar Plus gave it a 4 out of 5, saying, I'll not soon forget my time with Avowed, chaos, comedy, and catastrophe, and all. Kotaku does not give scores out, but they did say Xbox's latest RPG streamlines the worst parts of bloated open-world games into something special. Rock Paper Shotgun also does not do review scores, but they said, Avowed is not the Obsidian fantasy RPG I wanted, but the decently fun spell-slinging parkour FPS I didn't expect. Video Games Chronicles gave Avowed a 4 out of 5, saying Avowed is a solid action RPG with an entertaining script, satisfying combat, and impressively detailed environments. The inability to clean up side quests after the main story is beaten can be frustrating, but take your time with it and enjoy everything it has to offer, and you'll find plenty of memorable moments. I did not know that you cannot clean up the side quests and stuff like that after the main story is over. That is something for old GnittWitt to consider as he goes and plays through the game. But that's kind of what we're looking at for Avowed. Decent scores across the board. Like I said, 126 reviews out now, 82 average, 85% of critics recommending the game in general. But how does that compare to Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii? 81% is the average review score for Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, with 86% of critics recommending the game, and currently the game has 75 critical review scores up on opencritic.com. Let's take it on over to IGN. IGN gave this game, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, say that 10 times real fast, an 8 out of 10, saying absolutely heaving with buried treasures and varied pleasures. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is a consistently captivating voyager that kept my timbers shivering, whether on land or at sea. Eurogamer 4 out of 5, a raucous, absurd spin-off that manages to still feel like a first-rate Yakuza game despite the left-field setting and delightfully unhinged plot. GameSpot 7 out of 10 for Yakuza, saying Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii puts the spotlight back on Goro Majima for an uneven, swashbuckling adventure that delights more often than it disappoints. So yes, Goro Majima is the main protagonist, the main playable protagonist in Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. And in case you're wondering, how the hell did we get Pirate Yakuzas in Hawaii? Keep in mind that Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, last year's game, takes place in Hawaii at some point. The Yakuza boys decide to go on vacation. You know what? Don't quote me on that. I don't actually know how the Yakuza end up in Hawaii as part of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. But remember that when they changed the name to from Yakuza to Like a Dragon, they kind of rebooted the series with a lot of new characters as part of the kind of main focus of the franchise. However, it seems like there might still be some characters from the old gang still kicking around, including Majima, who now is a Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii in some way, shape, or form. I don't quite know how it all worked out for him. I guess I'd have to play the game to find out. Games Radar Plus is a 4 out of 5, saying, given how serious Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth can get, a sillier adventure with no less heart feels like a welcome breath of salty sea air. While I love playing as Kiryu and Kasuga, I'm grateful for the time with Majima this game offers. He's hilarious, compassionate, and always up to the challenge. He's an icon, and there's no character in the franchise who deserves more time in the middle of the stage. You know, I got a family member currently playing through Yakuza 0. I don't know how far this Yakuza journey will take them. There are a lot of games in the Yakuza series, and I don't even know if you can necessarily bounce off of them from one to another. Like, could they go from, or could I go? I mean, I played one. I played Yakuza Kiwami 1, but like, I still don't quite understand if I could just jump into Like a Dragon or Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth or Yakuza Pirate Adventures in Happy Hawaii Times, whatever this game's called. I just don't know if I could do that. So for me, it's this thing of like, these games seem like just outside looking in that you should play them at your own pace. You should probably play them in some amount of order, but you should enjoy them and stop and smell the roses when you get the chance, because people talk about Kiryu, one of the best, gaming protagonists, right? Kasuga, another great video game protagonist. Now Majima kind of getting the spotlight in Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. It seems like these are games that are kind of taking victory laps to some extent in terms of, celebrating the history of it while also providing new content. It just seems like in the case of Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, it's reusing a lot of stuff from the setting that was in Infinite Wealth and kind of repurposing it to make it a more action-focused game, a sillier, and from what I'm hearing, a shorter game. It seems like you can probably play through that main story in about 15 hours or so. But that game is out tomorrow. I should say it's not out yet. It is out tomorrow, February 20th on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and the personal computer, currently sitting at an 81 average on opencritic.com, 86% of critics recommending it, with 75 critical reviews total so far for that. So, hey, listen, if you're looking for an RPG, you're looking for an action RPG, it seems like you got some pretty good choices this week, whether that be Avowed or whether that be Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been out for a while. That was out on the 4th. That game, really great review scores. If you're looking for a first person open world RPG, focusing a little bit more on realism and historical accuracy and all of that cool stuff. But if you're looking for RPGs, seems like there are some great choices out there this month between Avowed, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about everything that was shown at the PlayStation State of Play. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, and thank you for joining me. My name continues to be GnittWitt, and we continue to talk about video games. So let's go ahead and load up here the PlayStation State of Play. This is everything shown at that PlayStation State of Play. Now, I got to admit something right here up at the top. I did not watch the PlayStation State of Play, and I'm not trying to tip my hand necessarily, but it seems like what they had to show, maybe I'm not necessarily missing out by not watching this PlayStation State of Play, but we have everything. We will talk about everything. First up, Saros, which is Housemarque's next game after Returnal. This is meant to be something of a follow-up to Returnal, but not called Returnal 2, and actually changing a lot of the mechanics around what Returnal was as a third-person kind of rogue-like run-based shooter. Saros is Housemarque's next game after Returnal, and it is set to arrive on PS5 in 2026. While it looks a lot like Returnal, it looks to be a new game set on the planet Carcosa that is under the threat of an ominous eclipse. Players will take on the role of Arjun Devraj, who is a powerful, I cannot read today, a powerful Soltari enforcer searching for answers on a lost off-world colony. So this game is going to feature a permanent progression system, and the idea is that they want every death to reshape the world while offering new upgrades to overcome challenges, but it is basically a third-person shooter. They have confirmed the release date for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. That is coming out August 28th of this year. There will also be an Ape Escape collaboration and potentially more crossovers yet to be revealed. That is soon. I will say this. I'm looking forward to Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Now, if you are not a Metal Gear expert, I'm just going to run down the timeline of Metal Gear for you for just a moment. Metal Gear Solid 3, which is being remade into Metal Gear Solid Delta, is essentially the first game in the timeline. I know, it's weird, right? This is, Cold War-ass Metal Gear Solid. Future sequels would go on to be games like Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 4, are further along in the timeline. So if you're trying to get in on the ground zero when it comes to Metal Gear Solid Delta, out August 28th, that's coming out on pretty much everything. PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, I believe. Well, let me confirm. You know what? I shouldn't just say that, because this is really going to cover mostly, this is mostly going to cover the, PlayStation side of things. So that's PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. August 28th. That's soon. That's sooner than I thought. Borderlands 4 also has a release date being confirmed as part of the PlayStation State of Play. Borderlands 4 is now going to be coming out September 23rd of this year. A big focus of this game is going to be on movement and mobility. It is the follow-up to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, as well as Borderlands 3. And if you've never played Borderlands, they are first-person shooter role-playing games with a huge emphasis on loot, and they are often not funny video games despite their best efforts. We'll see if Borderlands 4 reins in that humor or improves it in any way, shape, or form. Onimusha, Way of the Sword, got a new trailer and shows off its new gameplay and protagonist. It's not coming out until 2026. You'll be playing as the historic swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. Almost butchered that name, but I didn't. Land it, killed it. I am the greatest talker. I'm the Dusty Rhodes of talking in video game podcasts. Single player action game Tides of Annihilation has been revealed during Sony State of Play. It is one of the bigger surprises of the showcase. It is a single player narrative driven action adventure game that combines intense breakneck combat, and immersive narrative and an unforgettable setting. It takes place in modern London, which has been taken over by otherworldly forces. Players will take on the role of Gwendolyn and will be able to call in the Knights of the Round Table to help her in combat. There will also be big boss fights. So they're doing like a modern version of the Order 1886. That sounds reductive when you describe it that way, but hey, what are you gonna do? This was another surprise, and maybe not like the big pleasant surprise that other games in this showcase were, but a surprise to me. Days Gone is back, baby, and Days Gone will be remastered, and it's coming out April 25th. So here's how this works. Days Gone is going to be making its way to PS5 on April 25th of this year. It will be bringing with it variable refresh rate as well as PS5 Pro support, permadeath and speedrun modes, as well as an enhanced photo mode and additional accessibility features, and even a horde assault mode, which will have Deacon St. John taking on even more freakers than usual. So here's how this works. If you already own the PS4 version of Days Gone, you'll be able to upgrade to this new version for $10, unless you have the PlayStation Plus version of Days Gone, in which case you will not be able to upgrade for $10. Now, if we go over here, there's some other things I wanted to cover, because there's a huge, read the fine print sort of thing when it comes to the PlayStation blog for this. So I just want to scroll down. Okay. Here's the thing. If you do not own Days Gone on PC, you must buy the full version of Days Gone to be able to purchase the Broken Road DLC. What else? Okay, here's what I wanted to see. Owners of the PS4 disc copy must insert them into their PS5 every time they want to download or play the PS5 digital version. PS4 disc owners who buy the PS5 digital edition disc-free console will not be able to get the PS5 version for the discounted price. Game redemption via PlayStation Plus are also not eligible for upgrades. So, Sony seemingly doing the bare minimum to get people into playing Days Gone remastered on a PS5. I'm not saying give the game away. I'm not crazy. I'm not some ridiculous communist or anything, but come on, man. We're talking about Days fucking Gone here. I mean, how many copies of this game can you expect to sell for a remastered version of a game that wasn't so hot to begin with? And remastering it is not necessarily going to solve a lot of the problems that Days Gone has. So I think they should have been a little more generous with the upgrade. I think even something like PlayStation Plus would have been nice. However, who knows how you'd even be able to find the PS Plus version of Days Gone anyways, considering, as we talked about last week, PlayStation Plus is a real mess. Leslie Benzie, one of the creative forces behind Grand Theft Auto, left the company, started his own company called, left Rockstar, and started their own company called Build a Rocket Boy, and they're working on a game called Mind's Eye. They showed off gameplay for Mind's Eye. They also showed off a summer 2025 release window for the game. And this is a... this is being published by IO, the Hitman people, which is kind of neat. And basically what it looks like is it is a third-person open-world action-adventure game. If you told me this was like some sort of spin-off of Cyberpunk or something, you know, I would believe you. But really, it looks like Cyberpunk meets Grand Theft Auto, running around, doing open-world stuff, third-person cover-based shooting. Really nothing crazy, nothing you haven't seen before, but I will say here, I'm going to pause this video that I'm watching. I'm going to read the description. Mind's Eye stars Jacob Diaz, a former soldier who is haunted by a covert mission gone wrong, and to make matters worse, he has a mysterious neural implant called a Mind's Eye that has plagued him with fragmented memories and is desperate to uncover the truth about his past. So it is, it's Johnny Mnemonic. Mind's Eye takes place in Red Rock, a place where AI, robotics, and neural implants have changed society for good and the bad. Players will be able to experience action on foot, in cars, and even in the sky as they uncover more about Jacob's story. Dynasty Warriors is getting a roguelite spin-off called Warriors Abyss that is released today on both, when they did the announcement, on both PS5 and PS4. There will be randomly generated stages and items, choices that will make you stronger, and so much more in the game. You will combine the exhilarating feel of 1 versus 100 action with roguelike elements. There'll be over 100 unique characters and over 16 billion combinations of ways to play by choosing 7 of 100 characters each run. I'm actually surprised it's taken this long to get a Dynasty Warriors roguelite spinoff, but it also seems like we don't get as many Dynasty Warriors games as we used to. I could be wrong. That's just what it seems like to me. They also showed off the first look at Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, which is coming to PS5, PC, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and a Nintendo Switch. It is Sonic the Hedgehog in a racing game. Stellar Blade is getting a Goddess of Victory Nikki DLC and PC port release window. The PC port is scheduled to come out sometime in June of 2025. Liza P. Overture is a prequel DLC expansion set to be released this summer for Liza P. They also showed off WWE 2K25, which spotlights its social multiplayer mode, which features a wrestling hub, The Island. I think we talked about this on one of the last shows. Players will be able to make their own custom wrestlers to enter this new world and explore, take on challenges, develop storylines, and much, much more. They also showed off Shinobi Art of Vengeance, which brings back the classic franchise to PS5 and PS4. Joe Musashi, again, I'm terrible with these names, is struck by tragedy and embarks on a quest for vengeance. While it isn't a Metroidvania, players will unlock abilities that will let them explore hidden paths and discover secrets, which should add to the replayability. Shinobi Art of Vengeance is being developed by Sega and the Streets of Rage 4 developer Lizard Cube. Metal Eden is an adrenaline rush sci-fi FPS, which is headed to PS5 on May 6th. One of the most unique mechanics of Metal Eden is known as core ripping, and allows players to use a multi-tool to use its gravity beam to rip cores from enemies in your way. You can then throw cores and create a nice little explosion. You can also choose to consume the cores, which could improve your melee attacks, mobility, and survivability. How many other games did they announce? Holy shit, they announced so many games. Oh god, here we go. Lost Soul Aside is finally getting a release date. That game is coming out May 30th on PS5 and PC. Lost Soul started as a one-person dream from Yan Bing, and it has now evolved into a sprawling adventure full of breathtaking visuals and adrenaline-pumping combat. There's going to be... they've already started talking about the first free title update for Monster Hunter Wilds, which is coming in the spring. It will add Mizutunze Mizu. Oh, good God. These names. Mizutsune. If I was a Monster Hunter Wilds expert, I would tell you all about it. Split Fiction, that is the next game from Joseph Fares' studio. This is also the same studio that made It Takes Two, A Way Out, and Brothers, the co-op story-based adventure game. That is going to be coming out on March 6th. For all you horror fans, I have something for you. Supermassive Games' Directive 8020 will be coming to PS5 this October. Directive 8020 is the next game in the Dark Pictures Anthology series. This is kicking off season 2 of that series. Here, let me just read to you what it is. It is a sci-fi game featuring exploration with spine-chilling horror where every choice could lead to a disastrous death. So, like almost every other Dark Pictures game. Directive 8020 takes place aboard the Cassiopeia and sees our characters searching for a new home as Earth is dying. This ship is kind of like a survey ship, but things sadly go anything but smoothly as the crew wakes from their 4-year hypersleep to a hull breach, a murder, and some extremely suspicious crew activity, all of which culminates in the ship crash landing on the planet. Oh, and there will be an alien organism that can transform into any character, so that's really cool. Oh, that's kind of neat. Okay. Oh, that's fun. I wonder if you would play as this, like, alien organism. Like, if you would know you were playing as the thing, sort of thing. That seems neat. Pixel Junk. The Pixel Junk series is back, and it is in a new game called Dreams of Another, and it'll be out in 2025. This will be coming out to PS5 and PSVR 2. This game sees players exploring an ethereal, impressionistic dreamscape in which you shoot to create, which is also the way America handles all of its creation problems. They're just going to shoot stuff to create it. Boom. Take that, America. Darwin's Paradox follows an octopus who finds himself in a food factory. Now, this looks cute. This looks neat. It is an action-adventure story-based platformer. It is aiming to let players truly understand what it feels like to be an octopus. Darwin can climb, camouflage himself, and shoot ink with the added benefit of feeling the action come to life on the DualSense controller. The Midnight Walk is a stop-motion first-person action-adventure game that's going to be coming to PS5 and PSVR 2 on May 8th of this year. I just want to look at some footage. Oh, this game. Yeah, this game looks... Actually, this game looks... this game looks nicer than that other game, South of Midnight. But this looks neat in first person. I might check this out because this is also coming to PC May 8th. That looks really cool. Yakuza Like a Dragon's Kasuga Ichiban is coming to Dave the Diver. That's right, y'all. Dave the Diver is getting Ichiban's holiday DLC. It will also feature minigames such as karaoke and a way to recruit familiar faces from the Like a Dragon series to join your restaurant staff. Hell Is Us is getting a release date that is the new third-person post-apocalyptic sci-fi action-adventure game coming out September 4th. Digimon Storytime Stranger is set to launch in 2025 on PS5. It's a new JRPG where players will switch between both human world and the digital world, collecting and training Digimon along the way to stop the collapse of the world and change fate itself. Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic brings players back to the horror franchise. Five Nights at Freddy's is making its return after almost 2 years with Secret of the Mimic, where players will face off against a foe who can become the other animatronic characters from, if you ever seen, it's like, okay, hold on. Chuck E. Cheese. You know Chuck E. Cheese? You know Charles Entertainment Cheese? Everybody knows Chuck E. Cheese. Well, Five Nights at Freddy's is basically a horror game in which you hang out in a haunted, not Chuck E. Cheese. And I guess the Mimic character they're introducing to this Five Nights at Freddy's game will allow the foe of the game to transform into other characters set in the Five Nights at Freddy's world. Well, that's great. That's not scary at all. Let's talk more PlayStation. We're not done talking about PlayStation. If you remember, last year, Astrobot won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and it seems like that response is starting to influence some of PlayStation's decision-making in terms of what games to make next. It looks like PlayStation is planning to release more family games like Astrobot. Now, you might be wondering, well, how did we get to this kind of statement? I'm getting this news from Video Games Chronicles. Speaking during an earnings call on Thursday, Sony president Hiroki Totoki highlighted the Team Asobi platform's recent award success and said it validated its intention to expand its family offerings in the future. Quote, "At the Game Awards 2024, our first-party title Astrobot won 4 categories, including Game of the Year and Best Family Game, the most of any title. In addition, the live service game Helldivers 2, which was released in February last year, won Best Ongoing Game and Best Multiplayer Game awards. The fact that titles in genres we are planning to expand in the future, including titles for families and live service games, have received these awards is a major stride towards building a broad title portfolio." According to Sony, Astrobot sold 1.5 million units in its first 9 weeks, a significant chunk of which was new players. In Europe, Astrobot is said to have outperformed virtually any non-Super Mario 3D platformer game in the last decade. PlayStation Studio boss Herman Holst claimed that the Astrobot IP was very, very important to the PlayStation brand going forward. Well, Sony's talking about live service games, so that means that all their live service games must be doing great. They're definitely not canceling any live service games. They're not definitely rescoping the projects around live service games, and they're definitely not delaying live service games. Oops, I spoke too soon. Sony's PS5 live service title Fair Games has reportedly been delayed and is targeting a release for next year. Now, this news is coming to us from Giant Bomb journalist Jeff Grubb, who claimed in a podcast this week that the co-op heist shooter first announced nearly 2 years ago has been internally delayed into 2026, which means that they never announced a proper release date, so they can delay it as long as they want and shouldn't disappoint too many people, because as of right now, Fair Games barely seems like a real game, let alone a fair game. Announced in 2023 with no release window, Fair Games is described by its creators as a fresh, modern take on the heist genre. The PS5 and PC title is the debut title from Haven Studios, the Canadian firm who was originally co-founded by Assassin's Creed co-creator Jade Raymond, which was then acquired by Sony Interactive Entertainment in 2022. Game director Matthew Leduc said of the game, "In a nutshell, this is the thrilling competitive heist game where you join an underground movement to rob the ultra-rich and rebalance the scales." He added that Fair Games, which has a $sign at the end of it, will give you an opportunity to break the rules as a modern-day Robin Hood, a thrill seeker, or someone who just wants to collect cool loot. Trespass inside forbidden locations around the world, fill your pockets like a kid in a candy store, and unravel the nefarious plans of the untouchable billionaires. That would be cool if it wasn't a co-op multiplayer heist game. Like, almost nothing about Fair Games at the moment has left me particularly interested, but I could be wrong. Hell, I'm mostly wrong. When am I not wrong? But the point is we won't find out if I'm wrong or not until at least 2026, if Fair Games ever makes it out the door. If you noticed, one of the things about this recent Sony State of Play, there weren't a lot of games made exclusively by Sony. We had 2K, we had all these other studios, Capcom, whatever. Not a lot of Sony-made games were at this State of Play showcase. And it seems like that might be a continuing trend for PlayStation, because Sony reportedly might not hold a full PS5 summer showcase this year. What we have is Sony considering publishing a smaller state of play instead. This is all coming from everyone's favorite Giant Bomb journalist, Jeff Grubb. Sony Entertainment is currently debating between two models, the latter of which typically focuses more on third-party games and smaller announcements. They could still have some fun announcements, and they could still start bolstering expectations for 2026. Jeff Grubb said as regards to Sony's marketing plans for the rest of the year. Quote, internally, it sounds like they're debating and flopping between maybe something this summer, a full showcase versus another state of play, but they are considering a showcase. And if they have a showcase, that means they'll have a lot of stuff to talk about. And at that point, we would definitely expect to see Wolverine and a lot of other games that could come out next year. PlayStation's last showcase event was 2023, in which it announced multiple games for PS5 and PSVR 2. Remember PSVR 2? Remember that? They announced Metal Gear Solid Delta, an extensive look at Spider-Man 2, and Dragon's Dogma 2. And that was in 2023. So 2 years later, and they just still don't have enough stuff to do a whole showcase? What the hell's going on at Sony? I don't know. But maybe we'll find out this summer. Hey, we have fun here on the podcast. We joke around. Games maybe not making it out the door. Games maybe not being very good. Games getting delayed. Whatever. But it turns out that even if you do put out a video game that is, by all accounts, quite successful, that might not be enough. Because despite its big success, Marvel Rivals director and others from the team have been laid off. The hero shooter, the free-to-play hero shooter, which had development team based out of the US, have reportedly been hit by layoffs. That is a little over 2 months after the hugely successful game launched. Now, NetEase is the main parent company who have been developing this game and then had a US-based team. NetEase is a Chinese company, so it is a Chinese company with US-based developers and those US-based developers have been laid off. I don't want to stir the tea leaves in terms of politics, in terms of tariffs and all that stuff just yet. Let's just kind of cover our facts here first. NetEase sent a statement to Video Games Chronicle saying, quote, we recently made the difficult decision to adjust Marvel Rivals development team structure for organizational reasons and to optimize development efficiency for the game. This resulted in a reduction of a design team based in Seattle that is part of a larger global design function in support of Marvel Rivals. We appreciate the hard work and dedication of those affected and will be treating them confidentially and respectfully with recognition for their individual contributions. So stuff started rolling out with the developer, director announcing that he had been let go. Level designers announced that they were being let go. Everybody started talking about being let go. And the reason why this is so fucking crazy is because on Tuesday, Circana analyst Matt Piscatella noted that Marvel Rivals is currently among the top 5 games in the US for weekly active users across PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, according to its own player engagement tracker. It has been a massive hit, and one of the few games that has been able to break through the live service wall. When Marvel Rivals released its first season last month, the game saw 644,296 players playing the game concurrently, launching it to number 14 in Steam's all-time highest concurrent player count. That is higher than other popular titles like Apex Legends, Path of Exile 2, Helldivers 2, and Grand Theft Auto 5. What does that mean? That means that you can't put out a game good enough. That's what that means. That means you can't put out a game good enough to keep your job. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There is There is no good enough in this game industry. There is no successful enough in this game industry. There is nothing. There is nothing. You put out one of the most popular free-to-play shooters out today. It is not good enough. I wish everybody who's been laid off across the U.S. teams, I hope them all well. I hope they land on their feet. But it just goes to show that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Speaking of things that don't matter, Netflix has reportedly laid off multiple workers at Oxenfree developer Night School Studios. And when I say it doesn't matter, I'm not talking about Night School Studios losing their job. I'm talking about Netflix's games effort. Does it matter? Does it really matter if they can't get games out the door, if they can't keep developers' lights on? Does any of their efforts matter? It doesn't seem like it. But Netflix has reportedly laid off a number of staff at the Night School studio. Current and former employees speaking under anonymity to game developer say an unclosed number of employees were laid off. The layoffs were announced in January and came as a surprise to the staff. Night School was acquired by Netflix in 2021, becoming the first game developer to be acquired by the streaming company. Now, for context, there's been years where Netflix has made it clear its intentions to branch into video games, as well as its trademark live streaming services, such as this idea of watching WWE and Mike Tyson's ass. Did you see, when you watched the fight, did you see Mike Tyson's ass? I saw Mike Tyson's ass. Why was his ass hanging out while he was talking to his son? You know what? I don't want to talk about Mike Tyson or his ass. I feel like the biggest ass in all of that boxing fight was me for watching it. But anyways, they want to get into streaming. They want to stream these events. They want to stream these shows, these live events, all that stuff. But they want to get into games, right? They want to make exclusive games. They want to sign exclusive third-party games to their service, right? But does any of it matter? Does any of it matter? In recent months, it has been shutting down numerous aspects of its video game arm in an attempt to reorganize the interactive side of its business. In 2024, in October, it shut down its AAA studio, known within the company as Team Blue. Netflix had spent a couple of years acquiring a number of veteran developers, including Overwatch executive producer Chaco Sani, Halo veteran Joseph Staten, and former God of War series art director Raf Grassetti, to join the studio, which is said to be working on an original multi-platform AAA game. The following month, it then announced it had removed all of its interactive specials from Netflix, meaning you couldn't do any of the like Bandersnatch or any of the interactive stuff that was on Netflix. However, it is working on some amount of stuff. In December, it released the mobile title Squid Game Unleashed, and it recently announced plans to bring the WWE 2K series to mobile as a Netflix exclusive, which that makes sense because of WWE and Netflix. But I guess the thing is that like when I think about Netflix, I think of it as like and this is going to sound harsh, and I don't mean it to necessarily sound that harsh. When I think about Netflix, I think of it as the live streaming video service for old people. I do. It's probably the first one you ever signed up for. It's the last one you're ever going to, cancel if you do ever cancel it. And it's the one you're probably the most familiar with. You know all the series, you know all the shows, you know all of that stuff. And what I'm here to tell you is that I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of older people, if Netflix truly is the old people streaming service, I'm going to imagine that a lot of those people are probably not going to be in a position to play a multi-platform AAA game. Even if they play it on their mobile devices, they're just probably not in a position to do that. I have played some of the Netflix games on my iPad, on my phone. They work fine. Like I played Grand Theft Auto 3. Was it 3? Might have been San Andreas. It doesn't matter. I played one of those games on my iPad with a controller and I was like, wow, this works great. It totally does. But like, I barely want Netflix as it is. So I know Netflix is continuing to grow, and their commitment to not sharing and all that stuff has actually worked out quite well for them. But I don't know. I just don't feel like any of their game efforts has particularly mattered, and all it's done is screwed up the lives of people along the way. So I wish everyone at Night Studios the best. Night School Studios, excuse me, the best of luck in all future endeavors. It's not fair. Let's talk about Tyshawn Jones. Tyshawn Jones is a professional skateboarder. You might remember him from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 Remastered. Now Jones is saying that he is in a new Tony Hawk remaster that is about to come out, potentially spilling the beans on a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 remaster. Tyshawn Jones was on the Breakfast Club podcast where he said, "I'm in a Tony Hawk coming out. That's cool. They got a new one they're remastering, so that's about to come out. I was in the last one." There's spilling the beans, and then there's just grinding the beans into coffee, making a coffee, and then dumping that coffee out onto the floor, which is exactly what he's done, which I'm fine with. I mean, it's exciting to hear about a new Tony Hawk game. It's just, man, he just really just said the whole thing, right? That they're going to make a new Tony Hawk remaster, which in fairness, it didn't seem like they were going to make a Tony Hawk remaster at some point in time. It seemed like that wasn't in the cards. They, moved around the people who originally made Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 remaster. It was not in the cards, but now it seems like there will be one. Even Tony Hawk himself, the Hawk Man himself, in a YouTube interview, said, "I wish I could tell you more, but I can tell you that I've been talking to Activision again. We're working on something." The last Tony Hawk Pro Skater game was the 2020's remaster of the original two games. Tony Hawk claimed in 2022 that a second collection of remakes was planned until Vicarious Vision was absorbed into Blizzard and other areas of Activision. So are those people even around? Who is making this? We don't know. But there's a chance that a new one's coming out. How many more news stories do we have? Okay, let me see here. Let's do this one. There are reportedly 2 big Final Fantasy remakes on the way. That is what people are saying right now. Out there in the mean streets. One of those games being Final Fantasy 9. That's what they're saying. This is from Nate the Hate. Final Fantasy 9 is being remade. What is the other thing? A Chrono Cross remaster might also be happening as part of this, and that there might potentially be a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster game also coming out. 2 of my favorite Final Fantasy games, 9 and Tactics. So I'm excited if it ever happens, but pretty tight-lipped these days about what's going on at Square Enix after the release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC and Final Fantasy 16. So we'll find out. The only thing we know is that Square Enix is making part 3 of that Final Fantasy VII remake, but maybe they'll also get remakes of 9 and Tactics. I would love that. If they did that, I would be happier than a pig in mud. All right. That is it for news. We're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the games that I've been playing. I got a runny nose. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. I continue to be GnittWitt, and we're going to continue to talk about video games. This is our final, that was our final break. So let's talk about some damn games. I was playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I was really enjoying Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and then something happened where it just kind of fell apart for me. I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is pretty neat. It is maybe a little too big and bold, and the size and the scope of it is a little unwieldy in some ways, but that hasn't really impacted my experience with the main story. It seems like I can ignore a lot of the bloat that that game carries with it in the main story. Unfortunately, I think there's something about the core presentation and loop of the game that is far too repetitive for me to ignore and actively pushed me away from the game. So let me explain. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is an open world game. But it is not one of those open world games where you can just walk from one end of the world to the other. It is all broken up into multiple zones. I am maybe 3 or 4 zones into the game so far. And what that means is that there's different activities and side quests and all that stuff to do, and they're all contained within the individual zones. So in a way, it makes it really easy to be like, oh, I need to go back to this area to do this thing, to finish this, to find this, to help this person, to do whatever. But in a way, it just feels so much more repetitive. Sorry, as I adjusted my seat here. It feels so much more repetitive to go through the game, and every time you enter a new world, all this stuff pops up again over and over and over again like a checklist. It almost feels like a checklist you can never actually complete. It's a checklist that will never actually be done because every time you enter a new area of the world, you're kind of back to square one. And when it comes to collecting items or resources or fighting monsters or climbing towers or doing collectible stuff, that's fine. Usually that work is pretty easy, busy work, or in some cases easily ignorable. But the part where they have kind of prevented you from navigating the world as easy as you would like without doing additional side quests, I find to be incredibly annoying. Let me explain. There are different areas of interest in the world that you can fast travel to. There are also these things called chocobo stop signs that you can find in the open world. You can repair them once you find them. Easy. You just hit a button. It's done. You just repair it. And those are additional fast travel points throughout the open world. Okay? Unfortunately, you cannot activate those chocobo stop signs until you have captured a chocobo in that area. And to make matters worse, the chocobo that you capture, which is a big yellow bird, looks like Big Bird. You ever seen Big Bird? Chocobos look like Big Bird, except they're big, like bird-like horses, and you ride them and they're faster than walking and all that stuff. Okay. Unfortunately, every time you capture a chocobo in one zone, that chocobo that you captured does not carry over to the next open world zone. And as someone who's just trying to get from, A to B to C to D and just move on with my life, and maybe do some side stuff along the way. Like, I'm not opposed to the idea of doing side quests, because these are, they kind of break up the action from the main story in a way that doesn't distract the way that Final Fantasy 16 had that problem. Point is, it is so repetitive and so tedious to be like, well, I guess I entered a new world. I guess I have to do the bare minimum repetitive, like the most repetitive stuff in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just to be able to easily navigate this section of the open world. It's one thing to be like, oh, I met a person over here who had a fetch quest that said, go find this thing and do this for me. And then I found another person in another area that had a similar thing, but it was a different story and they had different reasons for why I did this, all this stuff. That'd be fine. But in this case, it's like, oh, your chocobo isn't in this world. You have to go find another chocobo. And then you have to activate all of these rest stops only after you have acquired the chocobo in order to, fast travel around the world as much as your heart's content. In fact, there's even a side quest in the game that prevents you from fast traveling to other areas that you've already been to. There's like a boat you have to take as part of the story. It's like, oh, I'm going to leave this island. I'm going to go to this other area. And you can take the boat back and forth between the two ports, but the larger area that you originally start with in the game, you cannot go back to unless you do a side quest, which involves finding yet another chocobo and all of these other fetch items that you need to get for this person. And that's where it kind of broke me in Final Fantasy, is this idea that like the game is so focused on so much filler, so much fluff, so much bloat that it is actively gotten in the way of just navigating the open world through this repetitive shit. That's the thing that kind of really annoyed me. I'm not opposed to side quests. I'm not opposed to bloat. I'm not opposed to collectibles. I'm not opposed to check stuff off a list. I've done it before. I'll do it again. But I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth takes it a step too far when it comes to the basic traversals of the open world being a requirement. Now you might say, well, GnittWitt, in Assassin's Creed, you have to climb the towers in order to survey the areas. Yeah, but those towers are like different. And you can still walk around the rest of the world and fast travel to other areas of the world, even if you miss a couple of towers here and there. The towers are different. The towers are easy. And the towers don't take nearly as long to do. So, and it also just feels like natural. Like, it's just like, oh, you know, I'm going to climb, you know, fucking Big Ben or I'm going to climb one of the Great Pyramids in Assassin's Creed Origins. When I get to the top, I can scan the environment and I can see all the side quests and activities and stuff around there. And then I get off it and I don't have to think about it again. Right? Or if you walked by something, you would see it anyways. But in this, it's just so, it just feels so naked and mechanical and repetitive just for the sake of being busy. And I find that so much more annoying than the rest of the stuff that's in that game. So unfortunately, I'm going to take a pause from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for a while. I was kind of digging where the story was going. I liked, you know, the characters, and I was cool with pretty much everything that was going on from like a main narrative point. But the part where every time you entered another world and it felt like just this bare minimum amount of required bullshit checklist, I was just like, I don't think I want to do this. I don't think I want to do this. It felt like I was kind of banging my head at some point with that game. So I decided to play a new game. I decided, you know what? It's 2025. Let's play a game that came out in 2025. Let's see if the games of 2025 are better than the games of 2024. So I decided to play a game called A Game About Digging a Hole. That is the name of the video game. It is called A Game About Digging a Hole. Now, this game was about $6.50 on Steam. It's a cheap game, about the price of a cup of coffee, though I recently paid way more than that for a cup of coffee. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I don't even know if I want to name, it's a chain here in my area. It's a chain of, it's not a big chain. This is not like a Starbucks or Tim Hortons, but it is a chain. It's a smaller chain. And I paid like $7.50 for a small, chocolate mocha, hot chocolate mocha. And I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Anyways, never again. Anyways, this game is called A Game About Digging a Hole. This came out not that long ago. Came out earlier this month. Like I said, it's about $6.50 on Steam. It's a cheap one. And what it is a first-person adventure game in which you buy a new house, and part of the sale agreement, it's a very quick premise, very quick setup. The premise is you bought a new house with the promise that there is gold and treasure buried in your backyard. So you take to digging up the hole. You basically, like, the game opens, you're standing in your shed, and there's an X on the ground, and there's like this big lawn. This big lawn that you can dig up. And it's a first-person digging game. So the way it works is you dig, and as you dig, you'll find stone and coal and iron and all these different ores and materials in the ground. You dig them up, you take them back to your shed, you sell them, you then buy a better shovel or a bigger backpack, or the shovel also operates on a battery. So you can only use the shovel so many times before you have to go and regenerate the battery back in the shed. It's very, very quick, very, very easy. Like, it'll take you like not even like 20 seconds to get from out of the hole back into the shed. Not even like maybe 15 seconds to get out of the hole that you're digging back into the shed, sell your equipment, upgrade your stuff, replenish your battery, and then you're back in the hole again. And it's just a cute, fun little short thing. It's got a little bit of a narrative to it. So there is a little bit of a reason as to why you're buying this house, why this house is, you know, very cheap, very affordable. There's treasure buried. And there is a little bit of a twist ending that I won't spoil or anything like that. I played through it. It took me about 2 hours. You can play through the game a hell of a lot shorter. It should only take you about 30 minutes or so to play through it if you wanted to, but I really enjoyed it. I thought a game about digging a hole is fun. You know, you get to see your backyard completely demolished by the time you're done. There are tons of different upgrades for your shovel. At some point you go from a shovel to a drill, and then you're just, cooking through the dirt. You're just cruising through the dirt as you pick stuff up. You'll find these different caves. You'll have to, as you get deeper and deeper down into the dirt, you have to buy lights so that you can attach lights to the underground areas that you're in so that you can see in the dark, see what you're doing. You can buy dynamite to blow up like hard to mine rocks and stuff in the area. It's fun. It's short. It's a lot of fun. And I actually really enjoyed it for what it is. And it's just, again, it's a very snappy, very quick, mechanics in terms of get out of the hole, back into your shed, sell your stuff, upgrade your stuff, do it all over again, rinse and repeat. There is also a new game plus in which you can start to hunt for trophies and achievements in the game. I don't know if I don't think I got all of the achievements. Where can I find achievements in this goddamn? Here we go. Personal achievements. View. How do I see the achievements in this game? I'm on Steam right now trying to find. Okay, so I got 3 of the achievements. I used the shovel 4,000 times. I found the treasure buried in the game, and I collected 100 stones, and there are 7 additional achievements that I have not found yet. 10 achievements in the game so far. I don't know. I think there are some other ones. I have not found them yet. I have the game still installed. I don't know if I'll go back and play it, but if you're looking for something very short, very sweet, does not overstay its welcome. Actually, to be honest, I kind of wish there was a little more to the game because I did like the raw gameplay of dig, sell, upgrade, upgrade my battery, rinse and repeat. So I would definitely play more of the game if there was more of it. But a game about digging a hole, I'm going to give it big old thumbs up. I think that game is a lot of fun. And if you get the chance to play it, you should check it out. I don't know if it's available anywhere else. It might just be PC only for now. There's no reason why they shouldn't put out a game about digging a hole on other platforms. There's no reason. There's nothing stopping this game from existing on other platforms. And then finally, we're going to talk about Avowed. I'm only about 2.5 hours into Avowed. So, keep in mind that it is still very raw, very doughy as part of my opinion on the game so far. But so far, I think it's okay. And I know that's maybe not the most blown away, oh my god, it's an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 sort of thing. I'm not quite there yet with Avowed. The premise is that there is a plague infecting the lands, and the emperor has sent you from a faraway kingdom to this part of the land to investigate what is going on in this area called the Living Lands. The Living Lands, as part of the Pillars of Eternity world, is being infected by this plague. And you're basically being sent there to investigate. It is an RPG, so you do create a character. There are tons of different character creator options in terms of faces and hairstyles and mustaches and jaw lines and all of that stuff. But the thing I enjoyed the most was, you get to create a background for your character. There's a bunch of pre-selected, backgrounds of what your character was, who your character was before they were hired by the emperor to go investigate this plague taking over the land. So I chose a scholar. So I'm a book smart kind of guy. But the other thing with the background in this game is that you're choosing your background. Are you a war hero? Are you a scholar? Are you a this or that? Are you a noble who just is part of high society? But also the other part of the game is that you gods and different gods are a huge part of the Pillars of Eternity world, and that's no exception in Avowed. And in your case, you are a character who has been touched by a god. Basically, you have been given godlike powers from a god. The problem is that you don't know which god has given you these powers. And one of the things that is unique about the Pillars of Eternity universe is that when people are, influenced by a god, if they become a god-like, you can physically see it in their face. So there are different facial traits and hairstyles that you can put on your character that basically show that you have been influenced by a god. Now, the way that the story of Avowed is that even if you don't, put those customization styles on your character, people still know that you're a god-like. But the plague that is shaping the land is a lot like the plague that's in The Last of Us. It's very fungal, very mushroom-y looking spores and stuff that are starting to infect the world in Avowed. So, you are somebody who kind of has or can have some like mushroom-esque, physical traits, some like blooming kind of effects to their hairstyle and their face as part of the character creator. But I'm trying to explain the story here. A godlike with these kind of, physical attributes and somebody who is sick with the plague are actually two different things. They just happen to look very similar. So you come across a character very early in the story and he's starting to sport like these like mushroom fungal like things on his cheeks and stuff like that. And your character, the characters that you're with are like, huh, you kind of look like this guy. Are you sure you're not sick with the plague and that you're actually, this godlike character? So that's kind of neat. This idea that like you might be treated differently if people can't tell the difference between somebody who is a godlike character and someone who's infected with this plague taking over the land. Now, I will say that godlike characters are rare, but they are not, completely, extinct in the world of Avowed. So it's one of those things where like, you're kind of the chosen one. You're kind of special. You're kind of similar to what's going on with the plague taking over the world. But there are people that recognize there is a difference between what you have going on as a godlike character and people who are infected with this plague. So you kind of make your way across the ship by ship to the Living Lands area. Shipwrecked, horrible stuff happens, and you're trying to figure out if people were trying to kill you along the way there. And once you actually get through kind of the tutorial area and enter the Living Lands, it turns out that the world of the Living Lands is kind of a shithole. It's kind of a Wild West. It's kind of the thing where like, if the plague that is sweeping the land doesn't kill you, all the horrible monsters and creatures and outlaws and dirtbags and all that stuff in the area will kill you as well. So you're kind of coming to terms with how this land is being settled by the different controlling parties, how the plague is influencing the land, and how nature has been kind of responding to that, to all of those changes. It is neat in the sense that I think they give you a decent amount of control in terms of character choices and stuff like that. It's one of those games where you are putting skill points into different attributes like dexterity or might or intellect or resolve. And those don't just influence your combat, but they also influence your dialogue. So, there was, I think I put a couple of points into might. And basically I was able to have a conversation with someone who said like, fear not, I will take care of these ne'er-do-wells or whatever. And they were able to believe that I was strong enough for the task because of the skill points that I put into it. So it's kind of got that like, Telltale Mass Effect, style dialogue choices and options, and players will remember, characters will remember what you said, but it also has that RPG stuff of like, hey, if you're really good at dexterity, which means that you're really fast with a sword and shooting guns, I'll get to the combat in a moment. You might also be able to prove to somebody that you're sneaky enough for some sort of job or some sort of task, or that you can keep a secret or whatever as part of the different attributes. I think there's like might, dexterity, intellect, resolve, and perception, I think are the different character skill points that you can put that not only influence the combat, but also the dialogue as well. When it comes to combat, and it comes to like making your character, I said there was a character creator, but it does not restrict you at all in terms of how you want to play the game. It is very open-ended. There's no character class. You're not picking a paladin or a rogue or a wizard or whatever. It's incredibly open in terms of how you want to approach it, to the point where you can actually really mix and match your combat approach. So, for example, I'm currently playing a character who has a sword in one hand and a pistol in the other. But when I started the game, I only had a dagger. And then at one point I was using double daggers. You can get a shield. You can get wands. You can get bow and arrows. You can get muskets. You can get different grimoire books. Actually, the grimoire books are really, really neat in this game. Basically, a grimoire book is a collection of different spells. So when you hold, so there was a one point in the game where I had a sword in one hand and I had the grimoire book in the other. And the grimoire book allowed me to cast, like, I think a healing spell, a ice spell, a fire spell, and an electric spell, all within the same book. So I could, like, you know, get a little bit of distance from an enemy. I could freeze them with the freezing ice spell, and then I could run up on them with my sword and I could hit them and stuff like that. And you can mix and match to your heart's content, and you can there's like different abilities that you're buying. So you're not just upgrading your skill points like might, resolve, and all that stuff, but you're also buying different abilities as well. Like, you can parry your attack, or when you aim with a sword or if you aim with a pistol or a bow and arrow or some sort of ranged weapon, it actually slows down time a little bit so you can better line up your shot and stuff like that. Well, right now I'm using a sword and a pistol because my idea is that, like, if there is a little bit of distance, I still want to be able to hit the enemy. And if I can stun them or knock them unconscious, I can run up on them with the sword and finish the job. Now, when it comes to combat, there is a stamina system. That means you cannot swing your sword infinitely. And even with shooting a gun, you cannot shoot it infinitely. You do have to wait for your stamina to recharge. You can also dodge, dodging left or right, but dodging left or right also uses stamina. It doesn't take too long to regenerate it, and you can actually invest in a character ability that makes you regenerate a lot faster or have a lot more stamina. But what it means is that you do need to think critically about, like, okay, this enemy is running towards me with a sword. This enemy is shooting me with an arrow. Am I going to dodge left or right? Am I going to do, if I have a shield, am I going to try to block the attack? Am I going to try to, do a heavy attack? You can also hold down, like any weapon that I've seen so far, you can hold down the attack for a power attack. Some enemies will put up their guard, so you have to hit them with the power attack in order for them to break their shield so you can go in for the kill. And that works on both pistols, so I can, like, hold my pistol down for, like, a powerful shot, or I can hold the sword down for a mightier blow and stuff like that. But from what I've seen so far, very flexible in terms of how you want to play the game. There's kind of no wrong choice in the combat. I'll just say I'm playing on normal so far. The combat, pretty tricky. You can get overwhelmed by enemies pretty easily and dodge the wrong way, shoot the wrong enemy. There are also enemies that are healers. So there was a fight I was having where I kept trying to kill this enemy, and I'm like, they keep regenerating their health. What the hell's going on? And then I found, like, a little wizard hanging out behind all the enemies hiding, who was, like, healing all the other, like, melee and ranged enemies. So I had to go kill the wizard healer guy, and then I was able to kill everybody else, no problem. You get a companion in the game. It is one of those games where there are companions. Currently, I only have one companion rolling around in the game. You can talk to them. You can have dialogue choices. You can upgrade the companion individually, which is really neat. It is a first-person game, but you can play in third person. It is an open-world game, so there is fast traveling. There are different side quests. There are stores you can go to. There's abilities you can upgrade. You can also go to camp, so similar to something like a Mass Effect or a Baldur's Gate or a Dragon Age. You can always go back to camp where you can sleep for the night. You can upgrade your items. There's also a stash, so you can, like, swap out equipment if you need to. You can also hang out with your companions and talk to them, learn more about them, and do all of that stuff. And then, shut down the camp, go back out there into the world and fight. It's just one of those things where, like, when I start talking about all of these different mechanics and stuff like that, almost none of it is new or wildly different than what I've experienced before. But the way that they put it all together is really strong for the most part. So I think it's a really competent game. I think it's pretty fun. It seems pretty good so far, but nothing about it has been like, wow, this is unlike anything I've seen before. And to be honest, I think that's okay. I just need to come to terms with, getting more into the story and more into the characters and doing all of that stuff before I, write it off as not being, some, revolutionary, game or significant changes to this type of formula. I like this a lot more than I liked the Outer Worlds for what it's worth. I couldn't quite tell you what it was about the Outer Worlds that didn't quite click with me. Outer Worlds is the other game from Obsidian that is trying to do a smaller, focused, open world action RPG, but instead of being in a fantasy, setting like Avowed is, it's going for that sci-fi first-person shooter setting, something like a Fallout. With that being said, if you've never played a Fallout game, or a Fallout game or a like Elder Scrolls Bethesda open world game, I would still say you should probably give the Outer Worlds a shot first because it's a much leaner, tighter, smaller game. You can get in and out of it a lot quicker, and it won't overwhelm you the way that it will with Fallout. I think I just might prefer the world of Fallout a little bit more than the world of the Outer Worlds. But so far, I like Avowed. I think it's neat. I just need to play more of it, and I probably will have a lot more to say about it sometime next week. That is going to do for the podcast. I'm sorry I was a little sick, and I feel like I'm getting sicker as the podcast goes along. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. I continue to be GnittWitt, and you can find me all over the place. But more importantly, you can find me over at linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, Twitter. I keep saying Twitch, Twitter. I need to stop saying that. I am not on Twitter. I don't even think my account exists on Twitter anymore. I'm sorry, X. Ugh. Anyways, linktree.com/GnittWitt. Avowed looks great from a graphical perspective. I think it runs okay on my PC. I think the combat is fun. I think the player choice and all that stuff is neat. I just need to get more into the game, which I will do. So we have more to talk about next week. And then, of course, on Friday, Fallout Friday continues. We're going back to Obsidian's classic game, Fallout New Vegas. We're going to play some more of that on Friday over at twitch.tv/GnittWitt, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I have been GnittWitt. This has been Glitch Report, and I am feeling under the weather. So we'll see you all next week. Take it easy.